Koroscil, and we're going to be having a conversation with author Zohra Zoberir, and we're going to talk about her new book. Zohra, hello.
Hello, how are you? Good morning.
Just great. I'm great. How about you?
Okay.
Okay, I've got a few questions I'd like to ask you. So we'll just open the program now, and I'll just start asking you, first of all, what inspired you to write your memoir, The Other Eye?
Okay. Well, I was a diarist from age 13, but once I got the chance to travel, the exposure to all the cultures, colorful cultures in West Africa and many other countries, then there were so many, it provided an intoxicating cocktail of bizarre and interesting events that had to be recorded. So I kept recording over the years. And then eventually during COVID, I decided that I'm going to compile all of that together. But one of the persons who's really supported me was Rodica Albu, professor from Romania University. She came here for a visit to study Canadian authors. And then when she read some of the diaries, she said, you have to do it. This is like decades ago. But eventually, now she's very happy because she endorsed the book. She's scholar of Canadian studies and English literature.
Well, that's great. Now, how long did it take you to write your book?
I would say that, I was writing various aspects of it over the years, but to compile them together, I think it took me a year and a half.
A year and a half. I know, because some authors I speak with it.
Yeah.
Take them 2, 3, or 4 years. Like, it's not something that happens overnight. No.
The best thing was that in COVID, when other people were bored stiff, I had something to do. And
well, I think it gives you purpose, doesn't it, when we were all locked down?
Yes.
Right. And I want to ask you, as a grade 10 student, and you married a PhD professor of biology, was that one of those traditional South Asian arranged marriages?
Well, most people would think that, they think they probably, forced marriage, forced her into it. But it's totally the opposite. Because my mom, my aunt, my father's best friend, they were all so dead opposed to it. But my dad said she knows what she's doing, because it was the kind of proposal. He said, you and me and no third life, and I will take you around the world. I wanted to travel, so I thought, yes.
Who could resist that proposal?
Yes, and he did fulfill his promise, though. I didn't fulfill mine because I wanted a kid.
Well,
I broke my promise later.
Okay. Now, after your instant marriage, did you end up living in London like you were going to originally?
I know. I was heading to Africa, would you believe it? And my cousins teased me. They said, oh, he cheated you. He said London, and now you're going to jungles of Africa. But did I ever end up in the most exotic place? I think it was the luck of the draw, Mary Ellen. It was because we ended up in Ibadan, which was the largest city in in Africa, south of the Sahara. But there was a tiny little town, Ile-Ife, and that's where they sawed, burned 13,500 acres of land to construct a brand new campus during the oil boom. So we found mini America in the midst of Africa. And that town, Ile-Ife, that's where mankind is supposed to have originated from. That's where we landed.
So there's a lot of history behind it.
That's right. But we found mini America in the middle of Africa.
Well, fascinating, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, your book, The Other Eye. What is the story behind that title? I found it, quite a unique title, to say the least.
A lot of people love the title. At first, it was iffy, but now everybody loves the title. I do too. I played with two names. Like my grandma gave me Zohra name, which is a Persian name for it's sorry Arabic name. She gave me that name. It means planet Venus or morning light. And my dad called me nickname Shada, which is a Persian name. I was doing the other way around. And that means cheerful. So, we all have two sides to our personality. One is, to forge ahead when in need of challenges. And the other one is for your own inner happiness. At one time, I played with these two sides of me, because we all need an integrated personality in the end. At one time, Shada kind of takes a secondary position, and I have to bring her up.
Well, you have to deal with her.
Yeah, Zohra went a little too far.
Well, makes for you, you're more interesting that way. Okay, can you tell me? Apparently, there was an oil boom in the 60s in Nigeria, and you were dubbed the gasoline queen. Now, there's got to be a story behind that.
I know Nigeria had become world's fourth largest oil producing country. All of a sudden, the entire nation got 35 to 50% salary raise. And at that time, you know, in the middle of this oil boom, there was a refinery breakdown. But because I had befriended a lot of locals, I used to, you know, wherever I went, I spoke to their language a little bit, had, you know, Ekusheo, Shedadani, and then they would be so happy. So not only did I get more oranges when I bought oranges or 2 extra eggs or whatever, but my tank was always full, even in the middle of.
Well, you were one of the lucky ones.
It was the registrar who dubbed me gasoline queen. He said, "You gasoline, take a turn. You drop me because I know your tank must be full." Yeah.
Those must have been interesting times when the boom.
Very interesting times. Yeah, because of the army, the vice chancellor was one of the think tanks for the government. There was a military coup. Military coup was quite interesting because I went to study something. Because you know what? I was a teenager. There were white professors, black students. I was the only scrawny little teenager, brown, and nobody like me. So it was like being dropped from another, you know,
another planet
or something like that. Yeah. So yeah. So Vice Chancellor was one of the think tanks, and he entertained state guests. So I used to study all, just be up to date on all the news, Newsweek, Times, London Observer, whatnot. So I was going to the library one day, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I thought on the way, there's not a single car. And I got to the parking lot, not a single car. So I thought, what's happening? Suddenly I heard, halt. And I look up, and this 10th anniversary cake, they used to call it, that building, Humanities, where the library was. And there were soldiers posted every few yards in all those floors, and all the guns were,
were pointed.
And I burst out laughing. I mean, if it happened now, I would probably freak out.
That's right. You might cringe a bit, but I think when you're young, you don't.
Yeah. They said, and their expression is, They said, madam, aren't you scared? I said, no, because it's like a movie scene. I didn't do anything.
I'm just here.
So one of the generals escorted me back, and I felt kind of, you know, ahead of me was this army jeep and the guy just touched all these medals, like those credentials. And then he dropped me back at home, and it was very.
Well, that was good. So there wasn't any issue then as far as trouble. You know.
The domestic staff was Charity and Pious. So Charity and Pious came out. Imagine Charity and Pious.
Well, I love those names.
They came out. They were so scared. I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm being escorted. They're not.
They're not arresting me or anything." That
no.
was good. Okay, and I wanted to ask you, you and your husband traveled to 36 countries, which is amazing in itself. Now, which two would you consider as your favorite countries?
Oh my God, that's a tough question. There were so many exotic places in West Africa and Middle East and Europe. But I would say, if I have to pick two, I'd say Switzerland for its beauty. I got to see Alps. Actually, our pilot even flew around the Matterhorn Peak and all that, Alps, So that was very exciting. And we met an American couple who invited us to their home and everything, that they gave us tours. And then Sweden, my Danish friend of mine had said to me that Swedes are the most racist people. So you be careful when you go there and all. And I found it totally opposite.
Oh, well, that was refreshing, wasn't it?
Yes, my husband was a visiting professor, sabbatical leave for a year. I think that was one of the best years of my life in Sweden, because I learned Swedish language. I danced for United Nations Silver Jubilee. I don't know how. My husband volunteered me for that.
Well, fascinating. Now, why did you decide to leave all of this and immigrate to Canada? And how did you cope with being a new immigrant? And as being a new immigrant, you have to start your life from scratch.
I know an American, a Canadian friend, couple actually we befriended in Sweden, and they used to say, "Why would you like to leave that kind of life? Did a mad dog bit you?" that you
They thought
decided.
you were right out of it.
Yeah, yeah. But yes, of course, from Nigeria, my husband had published a book before we left, Tropical Macrofungi. We've been through all of that. And so, and I had won 2 gold medals in all Nigeria championship. So we had kind of a celebrity status. And we were amongst like Oibo was a peeled orange, that's white people. So there I was one of the peeled oranges, Oibo. But when I came to Canada, suddenly I was a woman of color. And in the beginning, when you don't know your way about, you're kind of lost soul. And that's when you experience most discrimination. And in the 70s, it was there. Now, I don't think that that exists.
No, I think things are by far more open, but
Yeah,
as you say, the 70s, it was a bit closed.
some of the words, adjectives that were used for us, I don't even want to repeat them
No,
because
no,
nobody dare say them anymore.
I can imagine. Well, that's good. I mean, we don't want to hear them ever again. No.
And the reason we came is because this is the most tolerant, multicultural country.
Well, we
Oh,
certainly are multicultural, and that's what I
definitely.
love about the country.
Exactly. Canada is one of the best places for sure.
Well, that's good to know. All
Yeah.
right, let's discuss your career aspirations in Canada and how did you end up in banking?
Actually, if I think I should have mentioned to you that one of the surprises I mentioned, the crisis, identity crisis, was also because my husband, who was most successful, he had published 60 scientific papers in journals and his book and all that. He suffered, overqualified syndrome that he had. So he had difficulty just 1 year in Regina, and after that, he struggled a lot. But for me, there were ample opportunities, but the first job I applied for in Regina, you'd be surprised. I was totally not qualified. He asked for a minimum 8 years experience, and the general manager laughed at me when I applied for Saskatchewan Credit Union, Power Credit Union. And he said, did you know that I asked minimum 8 years experience? You don't have any. So I said, but I'm qualified in all other things. He said, such as what?
Well, you need to come
Ambitious,
up with something.
willing to learn, ambitious, good communicator. So he didn't hire me, but 3 months later, on Christmas Day, he called me. But in the meantime, I was doing other job with the government. He called me, and I thought, what's going on? What's going on? And actually, his staff had ganged up, and he had lost 2 staff. And he thought, this woman who keeps calling me every 2 weeks, let me give it a
You
try.
were relentless, but that's the only way.
But he took me under his wing. He took me under his wing, and he did tell me that you will be the first colored person of color in this building. How would you handle if they were to discriminate? And I said, Mr. Clark, I will add color and spice to your credit.
That's right. That what an excellent answer.
He taught me everything. I think he was my mentor. God bless his soul. I'm sure he's not
Well, that was it.
born anymore.
And surviving the winters, like Regina is only 42 kilometers
Minus
east of
50.
Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, where I'm from. And
Oh, yeah, you're
the winters were brutal. Yeah,
brutal,
that
brutal.
must have been
Yeah.
a shock for you.
I was sad when we left because it was just a 1 year contract. But good old Mississauga, like Mississauga,
That's where you ended up. Well, it's not as cold as winter was. Yeah.
that's right.
Okay. Why did you leave your successful career in banking, and which path did you take next?
Oh, you know what? I loved my banking career for the first 16, 17 years, but the corporate culture was changing. When they introduced this karate attack and all that stuff, which is, I don't want to expand on it, people can read it in the book. But at that time, I thought, you know what, that's it, I need to change. And I was following Hazel McCallion. She was always making these daring moves, and I attended one afternoon.
Right. Yeah. She
And
was
my
our role model. Yeah.
role model, I said, if she is saying, keep keep at it, keep going, do your homework. So I just decided that, you know what, that was the day I decided I'm going to quit. I did, and I never regretted for a single day, Mary Ellen, because I was practically married to the bank. So when I came out, I thought there's a world outside of the bank,
You want to discover,
I wanted to, yeah, and then
But without any regrets.
without no regrets. And I got to meet some interesting people. I was elected as president of a women's organization from the Middle East who had settled. And they wanted me to write a skit. And from skit, I wrote an Urdu play. And from an Urdu play, a lot of my Western friends and, mainstream friends, they said, do this in English. And the younger generation of Pakistani and Indians, they said that, please, you brought my situation. It was about window shopping for lasting love, like it was about arranged marriages.
I remember seeing that production.
That's when you
started your writing career.
You did amazing publicity for me. That's how come we had 1,200 people in the hall.
I couldn't believe the attendance. No, it was a great.
But then that led to a play on, divorces and then widows and then cheating in marriage, and stuff like that. So all of that is in the book. The whole process of community involvement and Mississauga becoming a hub of art and culture and everything.
Well, it has become, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, I have another question. You indicated you made a landmark literary contribution in the city of Mississauga. And please tell us regarding your personal experience with multiculturalism in Canada and who supported your various projects.
Yes, my launching pad was Mississauga Arts Council, one of the largest art organizations in the city. So they were always very supportive. For this particular book, they funded it. And I call this, more than 50% of population in Mississauga and Brampton, etc., is from South Asia, Indians, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and others. So, but initially I started, my focus was South Asian, but then I amalgamated, I included all other communities and Hindus, Muslims, Jewish, Christians, everybody. I opened my house to people, artists from all cultures, all age groups, and various genres to come to my home for either poetry or drama or practicing rehearsal and all that. My home was a rehearsal hall.
It was like an open house. I remember attending an event at your home.
That's why I start the book.
For authors.
That's why I start the book with Second Journey, a poem. It's like my artistic statement. Second Journey, that's what it is, embarking upon second journey when you are doing your whole life story. And then at the end of the book, I have added where I've reached, and that is multiculturalism at its best. And that's another poem titled, this is, like there's room for you.
But it was good when you did leave the banking scene and you became a writer and a playwright and you produced plays. And I mean, it opened new doors for you, didn't it?
It did, because I managed an optometric dispensary and all the suppliers of these big lenses. You have lovely glasses that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody wanted best panoramic vision, and I was. But then I knew all of these suppliers, and they all came on board when I produced the plays because they wanted to showcase their products. So big companies like Essilor Canada.
You aligned yourself with the suppliers. I mean,
yeah,
it helped you along the way.
I think, you will find, I have said in the book that many a times I was at the right place at the right time in life. I think I'm lucky. And look how lucky I am that you are here again.
Well, thank you. No, I know, but I know you've given a lot to the community, and I think they appreciate it.
Well, I did some stage shows, and one of the best shows was Internal Flame. That was during, you were asking me why did I write, and one of the things I didn't mention to you, the inspiration, is that everybody's life is interesting. I think we should all write our memoir.
Everybody has a story to tell.
Very unique stories. But I think in my case, the ups and downs were more. The yin yang in my life was not like a tennis game. It was more like a ping pong,
Back and forth. Okay.
That's faster. Yeah.
All right. Now, this will be my final question because we're almost out of time. Now, I really enjoyed being involved with your recent book launch. It was really fun, and you had about 125 people there. I couldn't believe it. And the attendance was fabulous.
Overflow of
And
guests.
I
Yes.
wanted to express my congratulations to you for planning such a successful launch.
Well, I think you all participated and
Well,
supported.
it was really a fun evening too. And I know your novel was very well received within the marketplace recently as well. And I imagine you have a new writing project in the works. And also, to end our conversation, if you can tell me where and let the audience know where your book is available.
Okay, well, my book website is Zohra, that's my name, Zohra, Z for my last name, Zohra Z, 123 at Hotmail. No, sorry, that's my Hotmail. ZohraZ.com. That's my book website.
ZohraZ.com is the website
ZohraZ.com.
if anyone wishes to
Yeah.
get. And
And
also,
it's available with Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and also through the website you can check in. Website also has the book cover. It has also 3 or 4 reviews, and the book is for all ages because it's a full life story. As Rodica Elbou's comments, I think you can see on my book website. And she says that it's like a whole life's recipe, Bildungsroman, a German expression that tells that from the beginning, brick to brick, how you build your home. So from as teenager's journey, how I meander through mountains
through
and
all the
rivers,
trials and
across the
tribulations,
rivers
but
and
you came
oceans.
out on top. That's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
hopping back and forth and all. And I did. There is a crisis in my life that is, the paradigm shift. And to overcome, I was filthy, not filthy rich, but fairly rich at 50, freedom 50. But at 65, I started my life from the
You had to
beginning.
start from scratch. But I mean, you did it very well with style and grace, as you
And
always.
people like you and many other friends, and they help. Like if you have a good, you know, relationship with people and they support you in your challenging times, and then you overcome it. So now I'm volunteering as well in counseling and all
Well,
that.
I think we've all learned,
You
it's
are a big inspiration for me. You are one of the
giving back
inspirations.
is what really makes your heart pound
This
because
is what I feel like
you
right
can
now.
help
My urge,
people.
yeah, I just did a book with a scholar. He has some 70 plus books. He
This is
invited me after my,
your new
yeah,
project. Yeah.
he wrote a review on my book and then he invited me if I could do one book with him. So it's a fusion of literary arts.
Okay, well, we'll look for that when it comes out. And I guess we have to close off now. Zohra, thank you so much for speaking
Well,
with
I
me.
really appreciate Mr. Balamanan.
Yes,
He and the
Bala, he
channel
arranged
and
our Zoom with us.
yourself.
And we are speaking right now with the Voice News Network.
Voice
Thank
News
you
Network,
again.
and the president, literally leader of the Courtneypark authors.
Thank you. Oh, I love our Courtneypark Authors Group. Everybody should be a member of a writers group. It really does inspire you. And the people you meet, like yourself.
Don't say everybody, Mary Ellen. You'll have too many people. Floodgate.
Well, bring it on. All right. Thanks so much, Zohra.
Okay, you are
So
welcome.
long.
Thank you.
You're welcome.